Hey, Coach. So glad you found us. A couple things. First of all, go subscribe and like. That really does help us a lot. That's the first thing. Second thing is go over and check out teachhoops.com for coaches who want to get better. It's down in the show notes. Hundreds of videos, office hours, one-on-one calls, my personal email address. I will help you become a better basketball coach. So go over and check it out, teachhoops.com, and let's head off to the video.
Hey, sometimes
All right, welcome to High School Hoops. Welcome back, Coach.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I am doing great. Cannot wait for third grade basketball season to start this year with my daughter. So
I know Coach and I
you
were
know what I
catching
love
up.
about her? I'll tell you this story for anybody that's a coach would love this. So last year, Giannis had these shoes and they're on sale for super cheap at Dick's Sporting Goods. And I showed my daughter and she loves purple. And she's like, no, I want the new ones. She had to get the new Giannis shoes. And so she took some of her own money that she earned scoring some goals in soccer.
Right.
And she bought herself some brand new basketball shoes, the new Giannis shoes this year. And so, that just makes a coach's heart melt when they want to put their little money towards basketball shoes.
That's a great life lesson. That's a great life lesson. All right. So
these are the ones you really want. You know what? You got to pay extra $15.
My parents did that with my first bike. I had to put money toward my first bike. I remember that vividly. All right. So before we jump in, I'd like to give a big shout out to our two sponsors. First of all, Dr. Dish, the #1 shooting machine on the market.
The best.
I got off a long phone call with they have a new person kind of in charge of everything, and Aaron's great. And
do you know anybody that has the house version?
Oh, the home one?
Yeah.
Yes, you do not get the $350 discount from that on that one, but I do know several people that have it and they love it.
They love it.
Yeah, just mention me and mention High School Hoops or Coach Unplugged. They'll take care of you. I'm just not sure. They won't give you the $350, but it is awesome. I would have had one when Drew was younger.
I know. I wish I would have had one when I was a kid, but in spring we're gonna sell the house and we're looking to buy a new house and the condo and buy the house.
It's storage. You got to think about storage. So it does collapse down, but it's super easy to use. Super easy to use. So go check those people out. Mention Coach Unplugged or High School Hoops or me or Coach, either one of us, and they'll give you $350 off. I'm working on getting that higher maybe for 2022. I told them I got to take care of the people that listen to us, and then go over and check out teachhoops.com for coaches who want to get better. I was just showing Coach my retirement packet, so probably won't happen this year, but I'll have a lot more time to delve in and mentor all of you. So go over and check out teachhoops.com.
Coach just wanted to show the age gap between him and me. So I have a 3-year-old and he's retiring in 3 years. So that is and he's yawning.
I'm not that
and he's done nothing today.
I'm old. I feel like everything's breaking down. All right, so what are we talking about? What are we talking about this week?
I think we were
a bunch of ideas off.
We were struggling because we want to be relevant. We want to be relevant in providing new material, new information on basketball, but also trying to be relevant in regards to what timeline we are in the course of the basketball season.
Yep.
How we reflect. And so I think we were like, okay, so how can we make this current, but also relevant in some new information that our viewers, our listeners have been listening for us for several years thinking, how can I connect this to this season? So we kind of came out with
preseason. And we've talked about logistics of preseasons before, but you and I before, because again, like I said, we haven't talked in a while. So we were catching up before we came on live. That we were talking about, and I was talking to our football coach about this, and this is something I actually have a coaches meeting tonight with my coaches. But the protocols of how you're dealing with COVID, the flu, winter and flu season, shutdowns, all that stuff. Obviously, it's not last year, hopefully, depending on where you live in the country or the world. But I haven't coached through that season, and a lot of people that did a very shortened version of it. I think as an elementary school teacher, you probably deal with this more than I do, but I think I'd love to talk about protocols, about what I've thought, and I've talked to our coaches about how are we dealing with masks? Where are they keeping them? I've always had their own water bottle, so I don't think that's going to be a problem. But, you know, where do we keep those? How do we separate? You know, when you walk into the gym, you sanitize. When you leave the gym, you sanitize. When you're taking a break, you sanitize. You know, how do we deal with those kind
So
of things as far
from
as
a
keeping healthy?
person that teaches younger children,
Right.
I think when we talk about protocols in this season, we expect that our high school's players are just like giant first graders. I mean, seriously, we expect that they know nothing. Okay. I mean,
Yes.
if you do that, the John Wooden way, right? John Wooden
Yes.
talked about first practice, he taught kids how to put their socks on. Okay.
Right.
And I've learned this the hard way this year, just coming back from a year of almost virtual learning, is that we need to expect our players know nothing. And when we establish those protocols, we show them by I do, we do, and then you do kind of thing. And I know that sounds very facetious and almost like over the
No, but
top,
it's
but it's
like,
not.
but you and I haven't talked about this, but you remember, this is the first time in 30 years, well, 25 or however long I've been a head coach. This is the first year I'll have ever coached without someone I've coached the year before. Like, even when I got the head job at Memorial, I was a JV coach. So I'd coached
Right.
those
And you
people
still had
before.
some
I
connection
had
to those
some,
players.
there's not going to be a player on my roster that I coached 2 years ago. Like, this is like, they've all graduated, they're all gone. So I think what you're saying is not only from a health and wellness thing, it's like, that's why, I mean, we're having meetings all the time. It's like, we got to literally start over. Like, here is how I've started making videos for my guys. Like, here's my expectation of this. Here's what I want for this. Because you're right. I assume base knowledge of zero from someone that's teaching high schoolers right now. Last year was nothing. Like, you can't assume they know something from, you know, geometry going into algebra 2. You can't assume that base knowledge. And I think that's a great point for coaches that are listening. Don't assume a base knowledge. And even if you had a season last year, my guess is it wasn't the same kind of season you normally had.
But also the kids were, to me, it was a very traumatic and the kids and their psyche, this overall was very overwhelmed. And I just think you can never go wrong by starting from the bare minimum. If it's overkill, you over communicate overkill every single time. Anybody that's a teacher and coach will tell you that, because you got to go slow to go fast.
Yep.
And so really build those things. And I think that, you know, young people today, they don't take care of themselves as what they should. You know, I remember coaching high school and kids didn't want to shower after games and all this stuff, and just taking care of themselves, you know, and getting in much sleep and hygiene, all those things. And we'll have discussions.
I think that's a great idea about how are you physically taking care of yourself right now? Are you getting enough sleep? Are you eating well? All those things we talk about in a regular season, I think, are compounded now in this world. Because there's a couple of nasty little germs out there that can get you sick.
But I also think that too is that we have to also, our teams this year, you have to create a culture where if you're not feeling good or you are sick, you cannot be afraid to let your coach know that you cannot feel like you're letting your team down. If you don't voice that, you're actually letting your team down, even in a different situation.
And you're almost dealing with a different world than I am, because your kids aren't vaccinated.
Correct.
My kids are hopefully all vaccinated.
Right.
But that they might not have the effect. They might be a spreader, and obviously
you just never know. I'm just saying that
they should 100% stay home.
At this point, you try to create that pack mentality as a coach, and you want that, right? We are a family, but also as a family, we don't get each other sick. We take care of each other. Right. I think there becomes back in the day, you suck it up for your team. Well, if you're sick, you don't suck it up. You go home. It's a different mindset, right?
It is.
It's way different. You know,
and I think that's a hard sell for coaches.
Absolutely.
I think it
but
is.
When you got to be quarantined for 2 weeks and you got to cancel games,
we don't have enough players.
What are you better off doing?
Right. I think you're better off. Yes, I think you're better off in that category, and I think it starts from the top. It starts from you and I and the head coach or whoever is like, here's what our expectations are. Here is the way we're going to move forward. And I think as coaches, high school coaches are listening to this, I think this preseason is probably the hardest preseason all of us have gone through. How are we dealing with that? How are we dealing with other sports? How are we dealing with conditioning? You and I were talking beforehand that maybe I'm thinking there's a chance that we might have to wear masks to play. Well, how is that going to affect my conditioning? How is that going to affect the preseason? I know once football is over in our area, I'm going to have a conversation with our guys. It's like, here's what you need to do as far as conditioning goes. We have 7 practices and we're playing a game. Like, you got to be like, we don't have time for that. And that's assuming no one gets sick. That's assuming no one gets a cold. That's assuming no one gets, COVID or a flu. So I think those are all discussions. And like you said, I think discussions you have to have with your players and your coaches and your assistants and all that thing, all the way up and down up and down.
I would say the last thing I wrote down here is review your procedures. How are you? There's so many procedures. I guess it's me teaching first grade. Like, how do we get our morning work in the morning? How do we eat our breakfast in the class? It's just a different time. How do we come into practice? Do we sanitize afterwards? Like, it's completely different, and
Right,
it's really
right.
about, I think you want to establish routines, like water bottles, like you were talking about that, like kids, you cannot share water. Kids have to be responsible. You have to wash them. You have to wash your
I'm
practice
thinking
jerseys.
as we're talking, I'm thinking I'm going to assign an area in the gym for them. Each kid
Yep.
gets an area.
I
was
see the
just
coach
thinking
and
about that, like, because you got a rectangle. There's 12 to 15 of them. You each get an area. If I see you walk into a different area, then I know you're doing something
I
like
think
that.
with even my third grade girls, I have a bunch of disc cones. I'm just going to take disc cones. And if
That's a
I
good
think I have
idea.
11 girls, I'll just take painter's tape and I'll write their name on it or their number that they have. And then I'll spread them out and they can put their stuffs,
Right. Because I want you, like, usually they're all like, no, this is your area of the gym. This is where you're keeping your stuff. Boom. We're going to I just thought of that. I'm going to talk about that tonight with my coaches. Anything else, coach, for that?
No, it's a good idea. I just think that we, again, have to really be conscientious of what's going on this season and expect that your players don't know anything, to be honest with you. And if they know more than you do, then that's a good problem to have.
No,
But if they
assume
don't, then you're
zero.
prepared.
Assume
It's better to be
zero
over prepared than not prepared at all, right?
Yes.
All right.
Thank you.
Sounds good.
See you next
Thank
week.
you, guys.
Bye.
Hey, Coach, so glad you enjoyed the video. Make sure you subscribe and like. Second, go check ttroops.com for coaches who want to get better. Let me help you put banners and stuff in your gym and become a nationally ranked coach, win more games in less time. ttroops.com is a community that will allow you to do that. Go over and check it out and go check the next video out. Bye.